life. In other words, what you're supposed to do. And my focus really is to help individuals and to also help businesses by just sharing a bit of ideas. Why would I want to have a conversation like this? Because I believe it's central to the operations of businesses. So in my life as a business speaker, where I get to interact with business, one of the key things that I've observed is affecting many organizations is issues to do with human resource, where many companies, because they don't handle human resources very well, they end up paying hefty amounts in damages. So human resources, if it's not handled properly, that can become an unnecessary expense to a business. And I believe money, you're not in business to lose money. But if you don't get the proper advice, and if you don't act on the right advice, and if you act out of ego or out of ignorance, it can actually prove to be costly in the long run. So today I want to combine two hats. One is a business speaker, two as a lawyer. And I want us to just share a bit of ideas as to what we can do in this environment, in particular as it relates to contracts. So issues to do with contracts are not just peculiar to Zimbabwe. Globally, there is an estimation that between 3 million to 26 million jobs are going to be lost because of this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And many global businesses are also feeling the pinch. So I was reading yesterday about Walt Disney Company. You see, one of the biggest companies, which at one point in time, effectively actually purchased the National Geographic transaction, which cost over 50 billion. And I want you to imagine what $50 billion will do to our economy in Zimbabwe. But imagine a company that big saying it's sending people home, what they call following. They are sending them home on mandatory leave, which is unpaid. They are sending 43,000 employees. And that's not a joke. And you see many companies as well in Zimbabwe, in particular companies in the hospitality sector, among other companies, they're obviously going to feel the pinch because these are the guys who deal directly with foreigners, tourists coming in, and they make money from occupants. So you see, one of the things that's going to happen is the occupants rate in many of these businesses is going to come down. And when it comes down, that has got a net effect, and it's serious in the sense that these are the companies which don't necessarily have large sums of money to spare, which they can use to pay off employees. So right now, just imagine, very few companies can actually pay employees for 3 months when they're at home. Very difficult. So it becomes very pertinent for companies to really focus on doing the right thing. And I need to stress this, the issue and the focus should be doing the right thing and not just to act on emotions. So I'm going to clarify a bit some of the things, then I'll give you what I think is the position. And obviously it's up to you to take or leave some of the thoughts that I have to share today. But when it comes to an employment contract, one of the things we need to realize, it's a contract which involves a third party, which is the government. So this is a tripartite arrangement where the state in some way has got an interest in the sense that it comes through the Labor Act, through regulation of an employer. One of the things that I've heard, which is so wrong and dangerous, is you hear an employee saying, I'm working but I don't have a contract. That's not correct. So a contract of employment exists by operation of the law. However, by operation of Section 12, an employment contract has to be in writing. So you find now we're having employees with written down contracts and employees with unwritten contracts, which are contracts by operation of the law. So whether or not you've got a contract which is written down, alternatively, you have a contract which is not written down, you still have a contract of employment. But one of the things to understanding the rights of the parties is to just go through them. But I'm not going to focus on all the rights that an employer has and the rights that an employee has. But one of the critical rights that an employer has is a duty to provide work. I need to repeat that. It's a duty to provide work. Meaning an employee, once an employee reports for work and they are at work, the employer has to give work. And connected to the right is the right to pay salaries, minimum salaries that are prescribed in terms of the law. So that is very critical in the sense that you can't blame an employee for not working when you have not provided the work. So those are some of the key rights that you have. Of course, there are several rights which are prescribed in terms of the common law and also in terms of statute. But when it comes to an employee, the employee's duty in terms of the law is to render personal service. That's why if you don't render personal service, that is a violation of a common law principle, which is now codified in terms of SI 15 of 2005. So one of the things that I find now when you look at these rights and obligations is we've got a scenario where an employee, by operation of the law, the regulations, cannot report for work physically. Can that employee be blamed? Is that employee entitled to a salary? We have an employee whose work requires that person to actually be there physically. They can't work away from home. And we also have an employee who can work away from the office physically. Can that employee be entitled to the salary? So these are some of the questions. Can an employee under lockdown be entitled to a salary? Can they be paid their salary? Can an employer be forced to pay a salary for employees who are not rendering service when they are on lockdown? Can an employer pay for people who are not working? So there's a common law principle of no work, no pay. I'm going to look at that. Then, can an employer terminate a contract on the basis of COVID-19? Can an employer say, we're not going to pay you your salary? We're not going to pay all of your salary because there is COVID-19? That's some of the questions I think which are arising. Can an employer tell employees to say, guys, you're not working, please take your leave days? Those are some of the things that I want to look at. But quickly and earlier on, we've isolated the fundamental rights. And I've said these are not exclusive. These are several rights, and there are several rights which are enshrined in terms of statute and in terms of common law. But the fundamental right that you find is the duty to provide service. Meaning if you're an employee, you can't hire somebody to work on your behalf. You have to render personal service. And once an employee has rendered personal service, there is an obligation on the employer to pay a salary. That's why Section 6 of the Labour Act provides a right to fair labour standards. That is going to incorporate the provisions which you find in terms of collective bargaining agreements, which are regulating how an employer and an employee gets to relate. So, what does it mean for an employer who has employees who are at home right now? Can that employer say there is COVID-19 and we're not going to pay salaries? The starting point is the employment contract. And I need to repeat this. The employment contract, that's the starting point. So if it's written, we read it. If it's not, we read the act together with the various instruments that regulate that particular contract. So there is a question that is being asked, and that's one of the popular searches, which is a word called force majeure, and people search as well for vis major. So now the whole argument is there is a supervening impossibility which is making it impossible for us to render our part of the agreement. So I think I need to clarify the issue of vis major, force majeure. In what instances can we say an employer is released from obligations? Because now, if you've got a contract, there is a contract by operation of the law. What it simply means, unless that contract is suspended, this is very important, unless that employment contract is suspended, and it has to be suspended either by consent, alternatively by law. This is very critical. The Labour Act as it stands right now has not been suspended. The Labour Act is still operational, which is why I've been hearing the news talking about some of these things and threats to cut off jobs and so forth. The starting point is we've got a valid act whose provisions have not been suspended. We've got contracts whose provisions have to be suspended and can only be suspended in terms of the law. And right now what we have is many people finding shelter in the concept of force majeure or vis major. But you see, a bit of reading into the law. I'm not going to take you into a law class because I just want to simplify some of these things. The general position of the law has already been set out in terms of various authorities, where the issue has been stated that if we're going to rely on vis major, it should not be a temporal disability. I need to stress that. It cannot be a temporal disability. So what many people really are complaining about is not vis major in the strict sense of force majeure, in the strict sense of it. It's vis major in the subjective sense of it. But the requirement of the law, if you are going to successfully ride on vis major and say the contract is extinguished, by extinguished we're saying it's terminated, no obligations. The several requirements, but you actually need to demonstrate that the case of impossibility in this case, it's not subjective impossibility, it's objective impossibility. In other words, it's making it impossible for everybody to perform their contract. So right now, you find that Zimbabwe has been going through several things which can be called vis major, if you want. But we need to be very clear as to what happens now in this particular instance. So the COVID-19 represents some of the pandemics that we experienced. Just that this has been one of the serious pandemics which has resulted in businesses closing. But before this, we also had typhoid. Before this, we had cholera. Before this, in 2009, 2008, we had a shift from our Zim dollars to the US dollars. And many companies were saying this is very major. Why? Because they never anticipated that we're going to have a shift from that currency into this currency, and it made it difficult to perform. We actually got several judgments that have been discussed on this particular point. I'll just take you through some of the judgments. But I'm reading one of the judgments here, which is very interesting. And it's simply saying the circumstances relied on fell short, and they're referring to Avenger and others in their way general principle of commercial law, where they say the specific debtor's inability to perform does not relieve him or her of liability. Only objective impossibility has this consequence. I need to emphasize this. Only objective impossibility has got this consequence. So if you read this judgment, it's a judgment by Justice Mafusira. I think this was the case of Wendell Person versus Matipeza Karasi. That will be HH 630 or 14. I know some of my legal colleagues are watching. So that's HH 630 or 14. Then I think, interestingly, one of the judgments that I think some of guys we need to read, especially businesses, you need to read. This is the case of Festel Cellular, Private Limited versus Net One Cellular. I think if we read this judgment, it's going to answer and address the issues to do with supervening impossibility. In what particular instance can we say a contract has been extinguished by supervening impossibility? And then we should be able to answer whether or not COVID-19 is a supervening impossibility. That's very fundamental. Is this a supervening impossibility that warrants the obligations to be extinguished? So in Festel Cellular versus Net One Cellular,